Welcome to Dad's Father's TV Network. I'm your host, Michael, and today I'm talking to one of the new attorneys of the team. I call her Attorney Darby, but you know, everybody that knows me know I always mess up names. So they can be politically correct. Tell them who you are and exactly what do you do here.
Okay. My name is Tracy Darby. I am an attorney here in the Dallas area. My office practices primarily with bankruptcy, family law, and personal injury cases.
That's pretty interesting because you said bankruptcies and family law is like, wow, how do those worlds intertwine? But as we was talking off camera, there's some interesting about family law or child support in bankruptcy that y'all are going to learn today. So you definitely want to stay tuned. I'm going to say that close to the end so you can watch the whole tape. Just kidding. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is child support as relates to child support payments and visitation rights. If you're behind in child support payments, do you have visitation rights? Or if you file a new case, do you automatically get visitation rights? And all those good things, because so many fathers, Ms. Tracy, are placed on child support, but one of the big things we hear is, well, you ain't paid your child support, so you can't see your child. Or you behind in your payments, so you can't see your child. I'm quite sure you've heard several cases like that yourself, huh?
Oh, yeah. And I'm assuming that the person who's telling them that they can't see the child is the mother?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or the grandmother, you know, or the auntie, or one of the ladies,
Some family member.
one of the matriarchs in the family, you know.
Okay.
But in simple terms, when a person go file a child support order, by law, exactly what is the purpose of a child support order?
Okay. One of the main purposes of a child support order is, number one, is to establish paternity. Who is the biological father of this child? And then once we establish that, or once the court establishes that, then of course comes the financial obligation. Because now you have been established as a father, then you owe a duty to be able to financially support the child as well. And the court looks at it as to where the mother should not be the only person that has to support the child, because, or whoever the child lives with shouldn't be the only person to have to support the child, because this child didn't come here just by one person.
Correct.
It came here by two. So then that means that two people, two parents need to help support their child. And so that's the whole purpose of child support orders, is to establish paternity and then to establish some type of financial obligation for that person whom the child does not live with, to provide some type of income from their earning ability to help support their child.
And you and I both know we can get into a whole bunch of ifs, ands, and those when it comes to payment, but also included in child support payment is also medical, correct?
Correct. The non-custodial parent, who is the father, mother, whoever the child is not living with the majority of the time, is required to provide medical insurance. They're required to help take care of the health needs and the health related issues of the child in addition to child support. So that means going to the doctor, prescriptions, that means glasses, whatever medically or health related that child is in need of. That non-custodial parent who is not living with the child on a regular basis has to also provide payment for that as well. And most times, of course, if your job can provide it at a reasonable rate, of course you get it through your employer, just as your insurance is deducted from your pay. In addition to that, you're also required to pay 50% or some percentage of whatever is not covered by health insurance. So it's always best, of course, to have health insurance coverage, so it cuts back on what I have to actually come out of my pocket with if the insurance doesn't pay for it. But you do have to pay for those things: deductibles, co-pays, premiums. All of those things are the responsibility most time of that non-custodial parent.
Okay, now what if the custodial parent, or in our conversation here, the mother, prior to the father getting on child support, has sought Medicaid or Medicare? How does that impact the father?
Well, the fathers, the state, of course, because that's state or government insurance,
Yes.
still requires the father to contribute some type of money back to what they're putting out for health insurance. So generally, then that father is still responsible to pay whatever the insurance doesn't cover. So just because the child is on Medicaid or Medicare does not mean that, okay, I have no financial obligations. If there is some type of health-related issue that the child has that Medicaid or Medicare does not cover, then that NCP is still required to pay for that.
Okay. And if she's on government assistance or Medicaid, I'm quite sure there's some type of monies that he has to pay in with child support for that as well, plus the copay, correct?
Right, so they're still responsible for whatever the state or the government's obligation is, they have to help pay for that. So they have to contribute to that. The state is not going to take it on solely by themselves, especially if that NCP is paying child support and he has the ability to work, then he also has to share in that government's expense to to have insurance for that child.
Okay, okay. Now, once the child support order is sent to the Attorney General's office, or some people call it child support court, how do they determine how much money that they're going to take out of the father's paycheck?
Well, of course, child support is always going to be based on what that person's net income is. And that means,
you say net income, is that the money before or after taxes?
That's net income is the money after taxes. So you have your gross income, which of course we have the federal taxes, we have the Medicare, the Social Securities, those type of things that are deducted from our pay that we have no control over. We can't regulate what it is. We can't ask them to leave it alone or give it to us. So once those mandatory deductions are taken out of the gross income, then that is what the net income is. There are some other deductions that may be considered to be not so much voluntary, like if you work for the state, of course you have to contribute to state retirement. So those type of deductions, the court will consider as far as deducting it out of your gross income before they start calculating what your net income is. But net income is what your income is after mandatory deductions.
Oh, okay. Wow, we covered a lot of great information here. And for you fathers who are listening, we're about to take a quick break. But what we want you to understand is next, I want you to grab a pen and a piece of paper. And after this commercial break, we're going to go a little bit more deeper up into your financial responsibility as it relates to child support, percentages, and so forth like that. You're watching Dad's Fathers TV Network. We'll be right back. Have you ever had a question related to child support, divorce, CPS? Call the Attorney General or maybe an attorney and they just gave you a runaround. Where do you go to get help? Contact Dad's Fathers of Texas. Yes, they are child support specialists. Dad's Fathers of Texas can answer your question, help file paperwork, and help find a family law attorney. Dad's Fathers of Texas, making child support simple. Okay, welcome back to Dad's Fathers TV Network. I'm your host, Michael, here today, and I wrote it down this time, Miss Tracy Darby.
That is correct.
See, I can get it right. Well, hey, we was talking about child support right before we took the break. And now what I want to do is one of the main things that fathers ask me here at Dad's Fathers is, say, man, how do they determine how much money to take out of my paycheck? And I think that's a very valid question.
Right.
As we talked about before the break, you said it's the net or the money after taxes.
Correct.
So now, the money after taxes is what they calculate or use to determine how much, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now, here's a father with one mother, one child.
Okay.
And he makes, let's say minimum wage, and for numbers' sake alone, $10 an hour. And I actually brought a calculator here. What would he actually be, if you was doing his order, he came in, he has a full-time job making $10 an hour. Give us an idea of what he would be charged properly. Of course, we know the judge make all the final decision, what he could possibly be charged for child support payment. So for all of you fathers out there, here's an example that you can use. If you make $10 an hour, you're working 40 hours a week, you have one baby mama or one lady that you got a child by, then this is an idea, not just precise. This ain't legal advice. You want legal advice? Call Miss Attorney Tracy Darby, set a consultation, and she'll tell you the exact. So this is just an example, okay?
Okay.
All right.
And so let me ask you this. So the $10 that the father is making working the 40 hours, you said 40 hours a week?
40 hours a week.
Okay. So this is gross income.
Gross income.
Okay. So then if a father's making $10 an hour working 40 hours a week, of course there are 52 weeks in a year.
Correct.
A lot of people get it mixed up when they're calculating weekly because they want to say, okay, every month has 4 weeks.
Correct.
Every month doesn't have 4 weeks.
Correct.
Some months have 5. So the easier way to do it is to just take what you work or what you make a week and multiply it by 52 weeks because it's 52 weeks in a year.
So if we go $10 an hour times 40 hours equals whatever number it is, $400,
Correct.
times 52 weeks
Right.
equals my gross pay.
That equals your gross pay.
Okay,
And if you work bi-weekly, then of course that'll be 26
26 weeks, okay.
So then you would take that bi-weekly amount and you'll multiply it by 26, and that's what your gross yearly or annual income would be. So we have a dad now here with $20,800 as his gross income. I generally do like between 17 to 20% for taxes, because that usually is kind of where the average of what most person's taxes are.
Okay.
So say for instance, if we did multiply it by the 17%.
Okay. I put her on the spot here, guys, so she's doing real good.
Okay, so 17% of $20,800 is $3,536.
That's what they're paying taxes.
So that's what they pay in taxes, and that's what they'll reduce from the $20,800.
Okay,
So that'll leave a net income of $17,264.
and since he has one child, that's when they'll take out that 20%, correct?
Right. You divide that amount by 12 because it is 12 months in a year. So that net monthly income is $1,438.66. You might as well round it off to $1,439. So then now 20% of that is $287.80. Rounded out, $288 a month is what that person's responsibility would be for child support for that one child.
Right, so basically what she did was she took your hourly wage, came up with an annual wage, minus out the taxes, then from there she broke it down monthly, and from there 20% of your monthly take-home money is what the child support payment should be. And again, this is just an example. It may not be exact, it may plus or minus a few dollars, but it gives them an idea.
Ballpark.
If you're on minimum wage at $10 an hour, you're gonna be paying between $280 and $300 a month.
Right.
And so now you got an idea before you go there. Now, my next question is, if he has multiple children by multiple female, those things change very differently, correct?
Right. What the court will allow you to deduct or to reduce the percentage for the one child that you're going to court to establish child support for, based on how many other children that you have that are not before the court in that particular action. And the percentage fluctuates based on how many other children you have outside of this particular case. So if you have one other child outside the case, I believe it's like 16%. So then that means that instead of calculating your net income at 20%, it'll be calculated at 16%. And it reduces by how many children that you actually have that you're obligated to financial support outside of the child in question.
And that's 16% per baby mama?
That would be 16%. In this particular example, we're talking about one child by one woman, and then he has another child by someone else. In that particular instance, instead of him paying 20%, if he didn't have another child, he'll just be paying 16% to the child that's at issue at that point.
Wow. So I'm quite sure you guys, need to refresh that. And we're going to post this up so you can continue to watch it. But as you can see at the screen, Miss Attorney Tracy Darby name and phone number is there. So feel free to give her a call, set an appointment, and even do a consultation. Let her give you a real live example of your case.
Right.
So with that, we're about to take another break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about health insurance, how it relates to your child support payment. You're watching Dad's Father's TV Network. We'll be right back.
SBA Investor Ready Business Plans, written in 21 days. McDaniel Consulting is recognized as being business plan writer since 2001. Dallas Morning News, New York Times Magazine, and Women's Day Magazine attest to these facts. Business plans, 214-349-6564. That's 214-349-6564 or www.mcbusinessplans.com.
Okay, welcome back to Dad's Father's TV Network. I'm your host, Michael, and today I'm talking to Attorney Tracy Darby. We're talking about child support, visitation. Before we took the break, we kind of broke down the mathematics as it relates to child support payments. Now we want to talk about the insurance.
Okay.
Because they're gonna charge child support and insurance for the non-custodial parents or the dads, correct?
Correct.
All right, so now when it comes to insurance, let's just say we have two scenarios. The mother has a job and she gets insurance taken out of her paycheck.
Okay.
How do they handle that?
Well, they can either convert whatever payment that she's making, whatever that premium is, 100% to the dad, or they can allow him to be required to pay a certain percentage of that that's less than 100%. But generally, like I said before when we started, the non-custodial parent is generally going to be held responsible for the health insurance payments, which means the premiums, the deductibles. Well, the deductibles, their share, but the premiums, usually that non-custodial parent is going to be responsible for paying it.
Okay, so, but if they come to an agreement of some sort, then the courts can take that too, huh?
Correct. Anytime the parties come to an agreement, the courts welcome that.
Well,
So
makes their job a lot
it
easier,
makes their
huh?
job a lot easier, and it makes everybody's job easier because
Correct.
when you agree to something, it's easier to do it. When you're forced to do it, that's what makes it hard, and that's what makes the resentment set in, and then the issues with the visitation and all
Right,
that.
right. So
start.
fathers, I'm a father. When it's time to do business, lower your pride, lower your eagerness and all that other stuff, and work nicely with the mom. And if y'all can come to an agreement, it's great.
Yeah.
If it's not, then,
Right, then that's when I have to step in,
right,
and the
so,
courts have to step
you
in.
know, maybe during that little time, you know, eat a little crow,
Yeah.
a little humble pie, and you'll be okay.
Right.
But now, in most cases that I see, several cases, the mother, via working or not, has chosen to get state coverage insurance or Medicaid. Now, in that case, will the father be responsible for still paying insurance since the state's paying for it?
Right. The father is going to be responsible to pay any government or state insurance that's offered to the child. Now, if they, in addition, if they want to get insurance through their job, they can. But generally, when they have state insurance, most state insurance covers most of the health-related issues because they can't require any type of payments from the parent. So, of course, that insurance is always going to be preferable.
Right.
If you had to choose, you're going to choose one that you don't have to pay anything. You know, you just go, they get their health-related issues taken care of, and then I don't have to pay any money out of my pocket. But then that does hurt the father because then the father has to pay all of that money that's being paid monthly back in addition to his child support payments.
Wow. So it'd be wise for the father to, once he discovered the mom is on state issue, to do what he can to get that removed then and get his own insurance via his job
Right.
or some other type
Correct.
of insurance policy.
Correct. And most employers, if you work for a large company, even small companies, they offer pretty decent health insurance coverage, that especially if they are provided for you. Then all you have to do is add the child, and most times that doesn't cost a whole lot. And then a lot of companies just charge you one rate for multiple children, so it covers however many children you
Right.
have. You're
Right.
just paying one monthly amount. So of course that works out a lot better most times than you pay the state back for each child what they're paying in a month. It's cheaper for you to a lot of times just add it to your health insurance for that family coverage, and it covers however many children that you need it to.
Especially when you think about not each time, you know, when the mom is taking the child to the doctor, then you think about you getting blindsided with all these
Correct.
bills after bills after bills, whereas
Right.
if you do want a certain amount of control or structure, then just go get some insurance. All the insurance out there, by the time you pay the state insurance and then the back bills and all that, the nightmare of dealing with the mama trying to get a copy of this,
It gets
Go get your own
expensive.
insurance, right.
Expensive.
right.
Yeah.
Now, when a father's paying child support, do he have to send his money to the state or can he just give the mama cash?
Oh, no. Whenever it's a state child support order, they are the ones that are enforcing the payments, which means they have to receive it, they have to send it out to the mother, they have to record it. They're keeping an account of what it is that you're paying in. So whenever...
So they're the bookkeepers.
Yeah, they're the bookkeeper. So, and it works good. A lot of times people say, oh, I don't want to do that. But it really works well for both sides. Because then you don't have the non-custodial parent saying, you didn't pay me this month. And you're saying, yes, I did. No, you didn't. So that way, they kind of keep an accounting of what's paid in and what goes out. So they know it's an accurate reflection of your payments. And especially if it's coming from your employer.
Right.
Then it's coming from your employer is showing that it's being deducted on your check. So you have some type of check and balance, because if you're going to pay the mother directly, in cases that don't involve Department of Human Services or child support, then or child support court, then you need to make sure that on those payments you write what it is for. This is for child support. If you have to put the child's name on there and say child support for, you need to put that on there, because anything that is not earmarked, it can be considered a gift. And then, especially if you're not having a good, have good communication with the non-custodial parent, then that person's probably not going to vouch for you and tell the Department of Human Services, oh, that he did pay me, or she did pay me that month. They sent it directly to me. They're not going to do that. So you have to think about all those things. You have to look out for yourself. It's just like a bill. Yeah. When you send a bill off, you make sure the account number is on there. You make sure everything is there. Same thing with child support payments.
So, guys, I know we gave you a lot of material, but this material is very, very important because, unfortunately, and I say this with all due respect for those mothers who are doing well, if you're not protecting yourself, then if a mom does not have good intention, you can go from zero being a good dad to considered a deadbeat dad with one statement. Back child support, back insurance, interest, money taken, bank frozen, and all those things. We're about to take another break here, but when we come back, we're going to wrap things up as it relates to child support payment and then start talking a little bit more about the visitation side of it. You're watching Dad's Father's TV Network. We'll be right back. Have you ever had a question related to child support, divorce, CPS? Call the Attorney General or maybe an attorney and they just gave you a runaround. Where do you go to get help? Contact Dad's Fathers of Texas. Yes, they are child support specialists. Dad's Fathers of Texas can answer your question, help file paperwork, and help find a family law attorney. Dad's Fathers of Texas, making child support simple. Welcome back to Dad's Fathers TV Network. I'm here today again, as always, talking to Attorney Dorr. We have some really good conversation today, and I think this is needed.
Yeah, it's very
so many fathers that come through the Dad's Fathers door are completely lost.
Correct.
So, but now we get into the meat and potato that creates the conflict.
Right.
Because now the fathers understand how they come up with taking their money. Let's just call it what it is. They take their money.
Right.
But now they understand why they take the money. Now, we got it structured. Well, I know how much money I'm going to pay. I know I have to pay my insurance. Now I can see my child whenever I want to. Is that correct?
Well, visitation and child support, they don't go hand in hand. Child support is one thing, visitation is the other. So visitation doesn't come automatic because you're paying child support. It is a request that you have to ask for. You're entitled to visitation, but you have to ask for it.
So let me get this right. They can take my money without my permission. Here's what the fathers will say. They can take my money without asking me, but I got to ask them to see my child, even though they're taking my money?
Right.
Wow.
It's always good. And I know dads would see it that way, but when you look at the big picture here, you ask for what you want. And that's with any situation. If you want it, you ask for it. And if you want it to be done correctly, then yes, you need to ask for it. You need to ask the court, I would like to visit with my child. So a visitation schedule can be established. So therefore, if there's situations, miscommunication between you and that non-custodial parent, then you do have something to fall back on to say, hey, I was supposed to have visitation this weekend and nobody was home. Nobody answered the phone, so I didn't get my visitation. So therefore, you'll have some recourse, because if you don't ask for it, then yeah, all you're going to be doing is financially supporting your child, and there is no obligation for the custodial parent to allow you to visit if they don't want to. So then you're back in a situation where you're pretty much there, they're calling all the shots. They're determining when you can visit, they're determining why you can and can't visit, how long you can visit, what you can visit for. So it's always best to ask for what it is that you want. So because they have a court order for child support. So, and if you don't pay, then they can bring you back to court and say, hey, he's not paying, he's in contempt. So if you're going to be court ordered to pay child support, why not have court ordered visitation so you can know when you have access to your child?
Right, and because I know a lot of fathers, they don't understand, well, what can I ask for? And why do I have to ask for it? Shouldn't it be something standard and things like that? And we're going to get into that in just a minute, but what I wanted to do now is kind of go back. You got your payment down. you know you're entitled to visitation, not quite sure know how to ask for it, but then the mother say, well, I'm not gonna let you see your child because you're behind
Okay.
in child support payment. Does child support arrears affect visitation?
Now, child support, paying your obligation to pay child support has nothing to do with your right to visit.
Two separate
They're
things.
two separate things.
Okay,
So because I didn't pay you child support this month, doesn't mean, well, you can't see our child this month because you didn't pay me. At that point, both of you all stand the chance of being in contempt if either one of you all chose to bring it
Now,
back
what
to
is
the court's
contempt?
attention. Contempt means you're not in compliance with the order. So that means something in the order somebody's not doing. If you're the person that is obligated to pay child support then, and you're not paying that child support, then you could be held in contempt for not doing that because you're not complying with the terms of the order. Same thing with the visitation. If you were court ordered to visitation, and the custodial parent is not allowing you to see the child, then they could possibly be held in contempt for being in non-compliance with the order. They're not complying with the visitation schedule that's in the order. Now, if there are some issues that the custodial parent has as to why they're denying the visitation, then they need to bring that issue before the court.
Right.
They can't just on their own decide that they're going to deny visitation or they're going to alter the order unless there is some type of emergency situation where the child is in, imminent danger, and they make the executive decision to say, hey, no, they can't go with you this time because the last time X, Y, and Z happened. But it needs to be some type of emergency circumstance, and it needs to be a circumstance then that you're going to bring to the court's attention. You're not just going to keep saying no, no, no,
Right.
because this happened. So you need to bring it to the
Right.
court's attention. You can't just change or modify a court order. Now, you all can agree to modify it, but then if you do, you need to bring the modified agreement back to the court for the court's approval.
right. So, guys, in essence, what she's saying is if you have a child support order, everything has been established, and if you're denied your visitation or access and possession rights, don't get all upset and get in deeper trouble by creating an aggressive behavior. You need to take it back to court, and we're going to take a break here. We're going to start part 2 of this discussion, your visitation rights. But what you need to understand, paying your child support is one thing. You are entitled to visitation rights, but there is a process, there is a procedure, and it's something you need to get established at the beginning of the child support order, and not when you two are almost at blows at each other.
Right.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, so with that, we're about to take another break. We're gonna take a few minutes, then we're gonna come back, we're gonna get into the extent of visitation. Come back with part 2, visitation versus child support, right here on Dad's Fathers TV Network.